Welcome to Tech Tuesday. Today we're going to look at an app called Skitch, Skitch, an app that allows you to make photographs a little bit more interactive in your classroom. You can download Skitch for any Windows, Mac, Android, or iOS device, so it will work on a desktop or a laptop. To download it, just do a Google search for Skitch. It's a product by Evernote, which is another piece of software that I can show you later on this year. I'm just going to jump right in and use Skitch. If you have any troubles downloading or getting it, please just let me know and I can help you with that. So you're going to click on your education folder. Skitch is this one with a pink icon with a feather kind of looking thing. And this opens right up to our menu. You can see on the bottom there's photos, camera, map, web. There's a bunch of different options for you. I'm going to show you how to use a couple different things in Skitch so that you can kind of see how versatile it is, and then it does allow you to be creative with your lesson plans. The first thing I'm going to show you is the map function, because that's pretty cool. So if you click map here on the bottom, all of the little mini lists I'm going to show you today have something to do with Chicago, just to kind of give it some context. So let's say I know the address of the map I want to show my students, so I'm going to click on addresses, and you'll see that there's the ability here just to type in an address. It defaults to the United States, but let's say we're using the novel Black Boy to teach our skills in an English class, and we want to show our students where on the South Side Richard Wright lived when he was an adult. So we want to show Richard Wright's house in relation to other landmarks that the students may know in Chicago. So I know that it's at 4831 South Vincennes Avenue. So I type that address in right there at the top and hit enter, and you can see that it takes me right to that address, similar to your GPS does on your car, on your phone. And you can zoom in or out as I'm doing here. Let's zoom out quite a bit so we can kind of show students perhaps where some other things are in Chicago that we're working on, or that we're looking at. So what we're going to want to do is click snap up here in the top right, and what that does is that takes a snapshot for us, which allows us to work with it in Skitch. The two pieces you want to look at are the two buttons that show up, one on the bottom left, one on the bottom right. On the bottom right, you'll see there's a bunch of different options. There's a square option, there's a marker option, there's text, there's all kinds of different stuff. Let's use the arrow option. So I'm going to hit the arrow option, and then over here you can see we can choose different colors. Okay, I'm going to obviously choose orange because go Huskies. So I'm going to use orange, and I can just draw an arrow on here how I want. So I'm going to draw this arrow, and then I can move it so that the students can see right there. That's the house we're talking about where Richard Wright lived. Okay, I don't want that, so I'm going to hit delete. Hit the arrow again, and let's go to text, and we can draw text and just write. If we wanted to, we can add that text and move it around so that it provides a label for students. So you could add some other things to show them, give them some context as to where the home is. This works for any location in the world. You can create a map in the same way. Now, let's say we're done. This is all we want to do with this map, and we're going to drop it into a Google Slides or PowerPoint or something. We're going to click on the icon on the top right, which is a square with an arrow on it. You can see we can make a link. We can put it to Facebook, email it, Twitter, whatever. I'm going to recommend you click the save button in the bottom, and then once it's on save, you can either save it to your clipboard, you can save it to a different drive. I just save it to photos, and then I know that it's in my photos folder. The app on Windows, you can save it to any drive that you want. Okay, now I'm going to start another one. We're going to click Start New. Let's say we want to deal with photos. Okay, so we want to make photographs a little bit more interactive, either for our students or for us as teachers as we're providing instruction. So I'm going to click on Photos on the bottom, and I've saved a couple photos, so you want to have them saved. But let's say we wanted to look at this photo here. We're doing something with current events. This is a photograph taken in Chicago City Hall. This is a group of protesters who have been on a hunger strike now for 30 days. It's September 15th now, where I'm recording this. These community leaders have been on protest for a school closing. A school called Diet High School is closing, and these community leaders have been on a hunger strike for 30 days because they want it to be an open enrollment school for their students, to make it really truly a community school. So this picture, there's a lot going on. Let's say the students need some context, so you can click on your arrow icon and choose the marker, and let's say we want to circle this right here. What are we circling? We're pointing out to students that that's the mayor. That's Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who's being talked to by these protesters. So you can kind of circle that if you want. If you don't like the circle, you can always click on it and delete it. And you can add different shapes if you want. You can click the square. Or you can click the square and then click a circle that makes an actual circle instead of the hand-drawn one. You can do lines. You can do different shapes like this, which will show an exclamation point if you wanted, and then add a directional component to it. So there's a lot of different things you can do to show the students what's going on in this picture. I think it's EL, maybe it's AL. At any rate, and then you can, and then if you wanted to, you could also highlight the protesters by clicking on this and circling, saying that these are hunger strikers, and you can show a current event as it's happening and also provide some context. Any photograph will work for this. You could save it in the same manner as I showed you before, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to discard it. Other things you can do, you can look at infographics like this one if we're talking about school closings, if we're talking about the current events that are going on in Chicago, because a hunger strike the last 30 days is certainly showing some commitment, something you can talk about with nonviolent protests and civil rights and current issues around race. This is just a graphic that I found that you may want to use in class, but instead of just pointing to things, you can help students by circling, adding in comments if you want, adding an arrow so that they can see, that these, who these issues are impacting, things like that. Another example you could use if you want in class is student work. Let's say a student takes a photograph of artwork they're doing or a project that they've done for your class, and you want to give them some feedback. Let's say here's an example of a student-created map of Bronzeville, which is a neighborhood in the south side of Chicago. You could add in some comments. Okay, so I'm going to create an arrow. Let's say right here, the hand with the dollar sign in it. This is an interesting concept. I like this piece of the artwork. Let's say I think it met one of my objectives. So you can just do something like, great idea here. So that way the student knows you liked it, and what you're pointing to. And maybe you could say something, along the lines, and I'm just making this up because I'm, not an art teacher. Something like, this could use some detail. I'm not an art teacher, and that's probably not clear feedback. So if this is not a tutorial on feedback, it's just a tutorial on how you could give feedback potentially using the Skitch app. But something like this, so you can mark up this image and then save it and either email it or print it out or whatever and give it to your students, so that way they would have some feedback that really kind of is a little bit more interactive, and you're showing exactly what they wanted without marking up a piece of artwork. You can use digital photographs if you want. Another example, if you're a coach or you're dealing with an activity, you could take a photograph like this and do something very similar. This is pretty clear to everybody that was watching, but I'm clicking my arrow. I can draw an arrow to say like, hey, Jay Cutler, the linebacker may move this way, so don't throw the ball there and blow the game in week 1 when we're driving and looking like we're making progress. If you wanted, you can do something like that, or you can, create arrows this way. Like maybe you could look to go here. I'm trying to resist the urge to do a John Madden impression. But there's a lot of different options you can do to enhance how we're doing things here, circling the offensive line, whatever you want to do. This also allows for interactivity with a student. You could have a student come up and use this on a smartboard if you wanted, drawing some things. on images or do it on an iPad. They could do it on their phone. You could send them an image and say circle the most important thing and send it back. There's a lot of different interactivity you can do with Skitch. And it really is just a platform where you can come up with the ideas for different ways to do things. So that's Tech Tuesday for this week. We'll be back next week with another episode. Please make sure to give me feedback in person, in email, or in the comments below. And we hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.